Hey gang, welcome to Mzansi and USA News. You know, there is something about the Democrats in America that reminds me of the African National Congress in South Africa. How that they would tell bold-faced lies. President Biden, the same thing that Cyril Ramaphosa does in South Africa, where he would create an impression that the economy is doing well, they are creating jobs and so on and so forth. Listen to this bold-faced lies told here by Joe Biden and his top economic advisor.
To have my next guest, the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Youre Bernstein. You know, Jared, I understand your frustration sometimes when you look at the data and Americans don't buy the data, but they really don't buy the president telling them that they're essentially wrong. It's not that bad. So how do you navigate that?
Well, that's not at all what the president tells them. And in fact, yesterday, if you look at his statement, which is on the White House website, on the inflation report, we got a very favorable report from the perspective of the markets today, as you have been reporting correctly. But he pointed out, I think one of his first sentences is, we know families are still struggling with prices that are too high. I mean, this is practically a quote from his statement yesterday. Never will this president blow off the struggles that families like the one he grew up in are going through. Instead, he'll take action to help them through cutting costs, prescription drug, clean energy, housing, child care, junk fees, actively working to lower costs in those areas. So not at all dismissive of America's concerns in that regard, Neil.
All right, well, some might disagree.
Indeed, some might disagree with that because the president in the same speech did indicate that Americans have the money to spend, they are refusing to spend it. How is that not being dismissive?
Agree with you on that, but I do want to get behind why the president keeps claiming this. This is what talking about inflation. Take a look.
We have dramatically reduced inflation from 9% down to close to 3%. We're in a situation where we're better situated than we were when we took office. It was 9% when I came to office.
Bold-faced lie.
But look, people have a right to be concerned. I think inflation has gone slightly up. It was at 9% when I came in, and it's now down around 3%.
Jared, why does he keep saying that? You're his top you're the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. Do you ever whisper in his ear, Mr. President, just to be technical about it, it wasn't 9% when you assumed office, it was 1.4%. It got as high as 9% in 2022. You brought it down from that, but it was never, ever, ever 9% when you came into office. So why does he keep saying it?
Well, first of all, let me point out that in that very quote you played, the president talked about how concerned he was for households struggling with prices that he consistently characterizes as too high.
That's not what I asked you.
So
why does he keep misrepresenting this?
He's making the point that the factors that caused inflation to climb to 9% were in place when he took office.
No,
I think
that's
it was
not what he said. He said it was at 9%. It would eventually get to 9% a little over a year after that. But the fact of the matter is it wasn't 9%. So if I can't trust him quoting data in real time, why should I believe what he's talking about now?
So the annual growth in core inflation in the second quarter of 21 was, in fact, about 9%. And his point about inflation down 60% off its peak is very much the case. So
no,
look,
it wasn't. It was not at that. So you're almost as bad as he is. Why can't you just say it was high, it got as high as 9%? You'd be accurate in saying that. And we have now brought it down and we're struggling in around the 3% area, but it's better than it was. But instead, hanging on his predecessor.
But still, 3% is not what Biden took over. Biden took over a 1.4% inflation rate, and it grew to 9% and a little bit more than that, and now he has managed to reduce it to 3%. But still, when he took over, it was not 3%. 3% is still higher than 1.4%. Okay, these guys clearly do not know what they are doing. They are completely clueless, and for some strange reason, they are getting away with murder by doing this dog and pony show. Everywhere they go and lie and tell you, no, this is what he meant. He didn't mean what he said. Who's running the country then? Who is the president? This makes absolutely no sense. Listen to this idiot in the studio right now and listen to what he is saying here. No, what he meant by that is that the conditions that were causal factors to the inflation getting to where it was were there when he took over presidency. That's what he said. It's the same nonsense that Karine Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is, was saying when he was being asked by Ducey. That does not make sense at all. So now you can see that this is a coordinated lie. What are they doing here? They are gaslighting Americans. Okay? And it seems as though they are reading from the same hymn sheet. These people are amazing. This is ridiculous. Listen further.
Hang it on his predecessor that you inherited something that was through the roof when we were in the middle of COVID. It just seems to the American people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're lying. You're just lying.
Well, hold on. I hear you. The president was making the point that I think is unequivocally true. The factors that took inflation to 9% were in place when he took office.
That is not what he said, Jared. And you're a very smart guy with this stuff. You could just whisper, and he's a good friend of yours, obviously, thinks the world of you. Many others do as well. You could have just told him, Chief, I got to tell you, Mr. President, whatever you say, you might even, in fact, call him Joe. That's how close you are. And look, say, sir, it was not 9%. Stop it with the 9%, because the more you say that, the more people don't believe what you're saying.
Look, I think what the American people care most about is the fact that inflation.
The American people care about truth, Jared.
Hold on, Neil. Neil, this only works if you let me.
Don't you love it when politicians want to tell you as a citizen what you care about, yet they have not asked you? I loved it. I love it when they do that. I think what the American people care about, this happens all over the world. It's identical to what Cyril Ramaphosa is doing here when he gaslights all of us as South Africans, telling us that the prices are not as high as they ought to be, which is absolute nonsense. It's Biden's demeanor, it's Biden's attitude. Yet everything from your gas to meat to food to just a gallon of milk has flew beyond the ceiling, beyond the roof since Biden took over, all over the world. Remember, when America sneezes, the whole world catches the flu. We caught the flu even here in the South. Now, nevertheless, let's hear him out.
Talk, okay?
You haven't answered my question. I've asked it 5 times, five ways.
The president was making the point that the factors that caused inflation were in place when he took office, and that's unequivocally true.
Right.
I take your point, and we can have we can go on all day back and forth on this. I think what matters today is, are we making progress on lowering costs as well as lowering inflation? You know, they're not the same thing. Lowering both inflation and costs on behalf of the American people. I think we saw a great CPI report yesterday in that regard, but that's just one data point. No victory laps, no getting too.
So now he's going to his talking points, right? Because he's not going to admit that Joe Biden told a bald-faced lie. He's not going to admit it. Can you see that? He is now going to his talking points, lying through his teeth to the American people, thereby gaslighting them. This is amazing. And guess what? There is lots of Americans that are still going to go out and vote for this nonsense. But it's quite enlightening to see that the polls are changing, showing that 64% of Americans are no longer endorsing these lies. Why did they endorse them in the first place to begin with? Well, this is what happens when you come together because you have a common enemy. Some Americans vote based on their hatred for Trump, not so much that Joe Biden is the best president that could be for America, which is sad because it's the same story in my country. Some people vote for African National Congress because they are black, not so much that it's a correct party to be ruling the country. As a matter of fact, they are destroying the country. In the similitude, Joe Biden is destroying America. Nevertheless, you can comment down below. I'm not going to obviously listen to all of this nonsense. If you want to listen to it, you can catch the original video in the description below. It was 13 minutes. It's just complete hogwash. Ciao, ciao. See you in the next video. Bye for now. And if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do help me to grow Mzansi and USA News. Bye for now.